Hey guys, my name is RyanCentral, and in this video we're going to try and quickly, at least, break down all of the major matches happening in the Open Qualifier for Europe Stage 2 Challengers 2. Last chance opportunity for some of these teams to qualify for the EMEA finals, and also Reykjavik to represent the major European region. Let's talk about the teams that qualified so far into the MEA finals from the major European region, I suppose we'll call it. Just the teams that aren't CIS and Turkey, basically. You got FPX and Guild. Congrats to them. Guild especially looking so much better than they did at the start of the year. We can talk about that a little bit more some other time, but also Oxygen and Fubalist for qualifying. 2 out of the 3 teams for Turkey decided, 1 more and 1 from CIS will be decided this week, as well as 2 teams that will be coming through all of this. Nobody gets a bye, like in North America, which I think is super unfair, but the bracket of 512 teams is broken down into 8 major chunks. Before we get onto it as well, these games will be streamed, not all of them, mind, Christ, imagine, but the major ones by some of the VCT talent on their streams, including myself, I can now sort of officially announce. This includes Jonas, Mitch and Thomas streaming together, Zesh and Lothar, and of course Hypoc and Pansy. So there should be 5 to 6 games being streamed, as well as other language streams that might cover, you know, the likes of Giants, for example, which personally I'm not too interested in checking out and watching, but we'll see. Basically, with all of these 512 teams, it's broken down into 8 major chunks, and in those 8 major chunks, 1 team will qualify for the closed part of the series. You're kind of used to all of that, so let's talk about these regions, because obviously looking at this kind of bracket is an absolute goddamn nightmare, because there's just so much going on. Some teams are kind of represented poorly in the text, for example. So, for example, I have no idea which team this is that's playing with Alex from Team Vitality and Counter-Strike and C9. I don't know where they are in the bracket, so apologies if I miss your team. It's very difficult to sort of wade through all of this and find the main contenders, but with all of that said, let's start with Bracket A, and the main team to really keep an eye on in this is Ninjas in Pajamas. They sort of came into the semi-finals of the closed qualifiers of Challengers 1. They lost to Guild. Whoever won that game would qualify for the MEA finals. Basically, NIP were very close to not having to play through these quals again, and they lost in a full best of 3 against Guild. NIP are a team that I don't think get as much credit as they deserve, mostly because they make some horrendous howlers of mistakes. They really have games where they look like they're not communicating, let's be honest, and there might not be at this rate. So there are times where NIP looks like a really wonky, rusty team, but I do think a lot of the stuff is obvious that they can fix. It means that both Emil and their analyst, I forgot his name, like Meneg, I think it might be. Sorry if I pronounced that horribly. They can at least spot the obvious stuff and go, hey, don't do that anymore. If you compare that to G2 and Fnatic, problems are a little bit more nuanced and a bit more difficult and complex to just go, hey, do this, and we fixed all of our issues. That seems to be it for NIP. If they get over some of these, you know, horrendous mistakes that they make, and they're really bad considering the caliber of team that they are, they should be qualifying for MEA, and I still put them towards the top 4 teams in the region. I'll have to do a power rankings at some point, but I still rate NIP very highly, on par with Guild, better than Opportunists personally, but I know there might be other people that disagree. So that's just me, you know, standing NIP, because I think they deserve a lot more credit than they get, especially with some of the major changes and how they've adapted as an org to not just constantly have a revolving door of players coming in. That said, there are a couple of other teams to keep an eye on. Of course, all of these teams could come in and run a surprise, and I hope for some team to come out of nowhere. But the other ones to really keep tabs on, as part of Bracket A at least, is Big and Honk. Big had a couple of roster moves recently. They're still trying to make their way up, and they have a difficult bracket, but they are most likely to run into Honk very early on in these games. Honk are, of course, a team made up of some really good players that I think don't get enough credit. This is a team, probably the best unsigned team in Europe, if you don't count Opportunists, because they've apparently been picked up by an org rumored to be BDS, which would be an amazing pickup. They have been picked up. They're literally boot camping right now at this new org, but it's not been announced. This team has a couple of players that you might recognize. They're all basically outcasts from other teams, including Sella, the coach that used to be on Bonk, that is now Guild. Dreamas used to be on Exiled. Destrin used to be on Olpenki. Chompy on Finest. Trex is benched. Still a player for Singularity, but benched. And Sinzi was, I want to say he was on 2G4L, but I don't think he was. He was on Quick Math that had players from 2G4L, or the likes of that at least. But yeah, Vasta Gaming, Quick Math, those kind of like Finnish stacks is where we've seen Cincy before. Destream been playing a lot of Astra, seems to be one of the teams that have really doubled down on this new agent as a means to an end. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I still feel that this is an obvious one for NIP to take. They really should be. They're considered, you know, top 5 team in Europe, at least this region part of Europe. But there's still a surprise in line for Honk. Again, there could be other teams that would come into upset, but the whole point of this is to point out some of the major lineups. But I would definitely say bracket A, favourites are NIP. Who should be taking it? Probably NIP. When it comes to bracket B, this one's super interesting. The main team to sort of keep an eye on is Team Liquid. Of course, these games should be streamed now, so we get a better look at Yampy and the way the Team Liquid are playing now that they've benched Eccles and brought in this new player. But it's pretty stacked with some of the teams in there. The main competition is going to be, of course, Alliance, who have done really well to qualify for the major parts of these tournaments, made it to Masters 1 in Europe, and also to the closed qualifiers of Stage 2, as we saw. Didn't get as far as last time. They sort of struggled against the likes of Guild, who went on to qualify, so not a bad result realistically from them. I'm definitely more interested in checking out Liquid than Alliance, but I think Alliance are going to be favourites because they're just so damn consistent. There's nothing absolutely wrong with the way that they play, but I just feel that people aren't as interested in checking them out, in all honesty, for some reason. It's kind of like Ascend, where you know that they're good, but obviously you want to see potential car crashes with Liquid and G2 and the Fnatic changes. The bigger orgs as well, so they're always going to be spotted out. Some other teams to mention is going to be the likes of Entropic, who are a part of this as well, which should be interesting. Entropic versus Liquid would be a really cool game that is very much on the cards. Angry Titans as well, sort of back with the team at the moment. And also, a team that we haven't really spoken about on this channel at any point, London United. This is a team that has K-Piz on it, Misfit, Monster, who was on Enterprise, which was the team that Magnum was on. Neff as well, that was on Royals. Jesse, that used to be on Inside Gamers. Really good stack, actually. Definitely worth a shout out. I don't know how far they'll go because this part of the bracket is super tight, but Alliance versus London could be a game that we see in the round of 32, I think it would be. And yeah, like I still feel that Alliance are going to be favourites, but an Alliance versus Liquid qualifying match is on the cards, and it would be a hell of a lot of fun to watch, and we get to watch this one. Somebody will be streaming this. If not, I'll be having a word with the other talented VCT, but that's bracket B. Main team to keep an eye on is Team Liquid. Favourites, probably Alliance, because they're so consistent. Bracket C is even more stacked. The favourites will be Heretics. Heretics are in this bracket, but another team that you want to be keeping an eye on is that good old G2. G2 and Heretics are in this bracket. Only one of these two teams will qualify, and this could again be a qualifying matchup that we get to see. There are a couple of other teams that I really want to highlight because they're just so damn good. One of them is going to be XL. XL are playing in this, and we could see David P playing up against his old team in the round of 32, I think it would be. Yeah, this is a team that is happy on it, that used to be on Giants, and also the Prodigy Auglis team. Honeybee, that used to be on Purple Cobras. Ale, that used to be on HS Deer, who I'm so excited to see. And Biggie, who I've never actually seen play before, used to be on a team called Almost International and Pushed, but I'd never seen these guys. He's the only player that I've not really known on this major part of the roster, but I'm very excited to see them play. I hope for a bit of a redemption arc from David P. I do think he was hard done by from all of the stuff with G2, so it would be nice to sort of put all of the politics aside, I suppose, and just play it out on the server. But yeah, XL versus G2 could be around the 32 game, and then the winner could play Heretics. These are games that you're not going to want to miss. I'll try and prioritize them, but we'll see. Favorites, Heretics, team to keep an eye on G2. XL would also be a really good shout because, yeah, like real first debut on stream for this org, and I'd be definitely curious to check them out. Bracket D, it's sort of open with the teams that are involved. The favorites and the main team to keep an eye on would be Vitality, who look a lot better with their recent roster changes. I do feel for VQ and Machina, they are great players, and this Vitality team could sure do a lot of damage, but I do think that the additions that they've had come in, which were Loki and, off the top of my head, Jesmond, actually, that used to be on Nolpenki with Vac. So really good running results. They lost to Ascend, which you can't really complain about too much in a seeding game, and then they lost to FPX, which was, like Alliance, another team that qualified. So not too bad from them. Bigger improvement. Are they going to qualify? Well, it depends, because you also have Team Finest in here that could maybe do some damage, but the main competition is going to be on the other side of this bracket from Vodafone Giants, who do look a little bit more consistent. I still think that there's roster changes that could come to this team overall. So it's not necessarily they can really contest it, but I think that Giants versus Vitality is a game where both teams could realistically win it. You've got Hoodie that's come in from, again, the August team with Prodigy, and also Fatinho that used to be on Vodafone Giants. So I do want to certainly keep an eye on these. These have been streaming their games, to be fair, Giants Gaming from Boo's perspective, so shout out to them. They might do it again this time around, so we'll have to keep an eye. So Bracket D, favourites probably Vitality, team to keep an eye on, let's say Giants, but both I think are worth a look in. When it comes to Bracket DE, I'm trying to like number the letters and stuff at this point. The main favourite team is going to be Opportunists, or BDS if the rumours are to be believed. They are signed to an organisation. I don't know when it's getting announced. I would have thought it would have been now at this point. You know, certainly going into the qualifiers, build up those fans, bring them over to Valorant. And I would say it's a fairly comfortable bracket for another team that got very close to qualifying but lost to FPX. One of the best teams, one of the oldest rosters in the game too. They're not the kind to really go for roster changes, but looking good. Other teams in this bracket to keep an eye on: 19 Esports, which were the ex-Vodafone Giants players. Sort of changing away from that slowly but surely. We'll have to sort of wait and see on that front. Oh yeah, another team that I forgot to mention in the last bracket is Taran Mill, who have been doing relatively well in the UK scene, so definitely worth a shout out, but I don't know too much about them individually. But yeah, Donkey, Jomba, Yuri, Poppy Fresh as well, that used to play Overwatch, I think. These are sort of some of the teams that are in part of this bracket, and also OG. OG actually have DPS playing for them in this part of the bracket because AKM is out for time off. I don't know if it's just mental health time off or whether something's going on, but yeah, I mean, OG are a bit of a weird team. They absolutely could beat BDS on any given day, but really when it comes to Opportunists and the way that they play, I just don't see them really screwing this up. I don't think there's any real teams that are going to scare them all that much, and much like NiP, they have a fairly free bracket, I suppose. Some of the teams could really contest them, but considering how consistent they have been, I would be very surprised if BDS doesn't qualify. And I keep saying BDS as if they've been announced, but like the rumors, I don't know any inside information. That's just an assumption and honestly a bit of a hope. But I would say that Opportunists are the team to keep an eye on and the favourites. OG might be worth a look in, but we'll have to see. Bracket F is a really weird one. This is the weirdest one, and really there's no team that's in this that stands out as being a top team to qualify, I'll be honest. The main ones are going to be Ballista and Heat. Ballista have done really well recently, but fallen off a little bit. Certainly with them not having Baddie G on the team. I was going to say Daddy P, but I don't know what the hell that is. But yeah, Daddy G, for Christ, Baddie G has left the team, so Ballista are out with a little bit of firepower. They still have the likes of Bold on their lineup, so they can still do quite a lot. Heat, the Need More DM team, really struggled to get any top tier finishes recently. I love those guys. I love the Hungarian scene. They're always really good to interact with, but I think that when you have Ballista, Heat, and Rix GG is the other team in here that had a really good result beating Team Liquid in Challengers 3, this could be any of those three teams, in all honesty. I think that the favourite is Rix. I think they've been improving a tremendous amount recently. You would say Ballista, but Ballista have fallen off just a little bit, and I'll be honest, I never considered them like a top tier team, you know? I've been pretty critical of like their game against Fnatic and stuff in the past, but I really like the team, but I do think that between Ballista, Heat and Rix, it could go any which way, to be honest. But I am going to say team to watch would be Rix. Let's say favorites are Ballista, team to watch Rix, if I was to give it. We also have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, which is Ascend and Animal are the main teams, because Ascend won Masters 1. I think they get a bit of an open bracket. Again, no offense to the teams that are in there that I missed. I guess the other team to keep an eye on for a qualifying match would be Animal, who have been consistently up there when it comes to results. And another really good team like Honk that run signs that could potentially be picked up in the future. It's definitely a team to maybe not pay too much attention to, but remember the name and the name of the players, because they might be signed at any given time at this point. Who knows, really. But to finish off, Bracket H, quite a few teams in this one. The main one being Fnatic, who obviously have Durka and Magnum coming into the team. Durka is insane from Crow Crowd. He's one player that I've been keeping an eye on, looking at stats consistently ever since First Strike. He is a name that's come up very consistently, much as a lot of the Crow Crowd team, to be honest. It's definitely a CIS team to keep an eye on. I don't know if it's an AUG or not, I'll have to check, but in regards to other teams, you have Wave, who Fnatic versus Wave as a rematch to qualify would be super interesting. Can't really write off Wave because they can do so much damage with their lineup. You've also got Linstitute, Saw, and Inside Gamers. Those three teams really not competing too much, I think, with Wave and Fnatic, but I do think that the team to watch is Fnatic because of the recent roster changes, and I would still say they're the favourites. No offense, Wave, I know you could do quite a lot of work, but that would be a hell of a matchup. We have some really good qualifying games potentially lining up. For example, if we go through them again, sort of highlight the main two teams in each of the brackets as for my predictions. For a qualifying game in bracket A, you've got Nip versus Honk. Nip would take that as my guess. Then we have Alliance versus Liquid in bracket B. Alliance would take that one, but it could go either way. Heretics versus G2 is going to be my prediction for bracket C, with Heretics taking that because Heretics is still a good team. For bracket D, Vitality versus Giants. Vitality take it. That's what I'm guessing. Bracket E, BDS or Opportunists versus OG. Opportunists taking that one. For bracket F, we would have Ballista versus Rix is what I'm guessing. Could go either way, but I'm going to say Ballista. Ascend versus Animal for bracket G, with Ascend taking that because they still look good. And bracket H, Fnatic versus Wave. Fnatic taking that. They're my top 8 teams that are going to make it to the closed qualifiers. All of this happening over the next 3 days, so be sure to follow all of the streams linked in the description. And that is where I'm going to leave it for today. Thank you very much for watching. Sorry if it's a long video. There's a lot of stuff to obviously go over. And I'll try and check in tomorrow to update you on all of the results and all of the stuff that's happened and go from there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.